Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on globalisation and educational policy. One of the most important social changes in the past 30 years has been the impact of globalisation on society, and this has had impacts on education in the UK. Globalisation is the process of greater interconnectedness between nations, politically, culturally and economically. A positive aspect of globalisation is that now we increasingly look to other cultures to find solutions to problems, and the education system is no exception. One aspect of education that has become global is performance ranking, with international ranking schemes rating the effectiveness of education in different countries. Now, this is usually achieved through students sitting a specific test, such as PISA or TIMSS assessments, and then comparing the scores of those students and results in other nations. The tests are conducted in 3 subjects: science, reading and maths, and in 2015 the UK, according to the PISA rankings, ranked 15th out of 72 for science, 21st for reading and 27th for maths. The idea behind the ranking system is that the nations who require improvement may look to nations who are consistently at the top of the rankings, for example Singapore, for inspiration in improving their education. This would mean that the UK could look at nations such as Hong Kong, Korea, Canada, Estonia, Finland or the Netherlands to improve their teaching of mathematics, for example. And this is one way in which globalisation can shape educational policy. So how has globalisation directly influenced educational policies? Firstly, through the different types of educational provision available. The first wave of academisation, city centre academies, was based loosely upon the American charter school system, while the introduction of free schools in 2010 was based upon Scandinavian equivalents in Sweden and Finland, who were consistently topping rankings at that time. Other influences were the introduction of national literacy and numeracy campaigns, with an aim of creating skills for a global workplace. Additional funding has also been made available for the teaching of maths and science as a reaction to the UK's lower status in these areas of the PISA rankings. And there have been a number of initiatives to raise the knowledge base of teachers in the UK, from extending initial teacher training programmes, introducing longer qualification periods for qualified teacher status, and funding for teachers to study education at master's level, similar to their colleagues in Scandinavian schools. However, many of these programmes have been at odds with austerity cuts to education and the application of market principles in the UK education system. There have been also some less direct impacts of globalisation on educational policy. Globalisation has led to the growth of Western culture and neoliberal economics, which has led to anti-globalisation movements and in some cases terrorist activity. The UK government has reacted to the threat of terrorism by introducing British values and Prevent into schools, initially to combat the possibility of young people being groomed into terrorist organisations. Globalisation has also led to the spread of marketisation and privatisation in education. Many UK universities now have overseas campuses in less developed nations, and there has been a growth of UK educational trusts operating schools overseas. This is as a result of neoliberal and free trade agreements implemented as part of the expansion of global markets. Globalisation has also led to increased travel, and with the UK having some of the highest ranked universities in the world, has naturally attracted students from across the globe. This has had an indirect impact on tuition fees, as overseas students pay higher fees than UK students, although this was one of the reasons presented for increasing UK tuition fees in 2010. The increased movement into the UK from other nations has also led to increased funding for ESOL, English for Speakers of Other Languages, and EAL, English as an Additional Language, speakers to obtain up to Level 2, or a GCSE equivalent, qualifications in English Maths to enable them to become part of the UK workforce. Further impacts of globalisation on education have occurred that are not part of educational policy but have changed the experience of education. Increased cooperation in educational research has meant that teaching and learning activities are influenced by global research into education, whether that is growth mindset, cognitive load theory, Rosensheim principles, or many other techniques. Many of these have been influenced by research in other nations. Migration has also led to changes in the curriculum, particularly in the early part of the 21st century, with subjects such as Arabic and Polish being offered to students in the UK. while multicultural approaches to education have increased the attainments of some minority ethnic groups in the UK. However, critics would suggest that there is still a need to decolonise the curriculum from its basis of Little Englandism. There are lots of criticisms of the impact of globalisation in education. The ranking systems have been criticised for having too narrow a focus on skills with only science, reading and maths tested. Others have argued that the application of educational policies from one area of the globe to another may not have the desired effects due to external constraints. While educational approaches in Eastern Asia with a high emphasis on testing may suit the performance-related UK system, other methods such as the Finnish system are reliant upon heavy educational spending and personal autonomy for teachers, something which the application of market values to education does not favour. Furthermore, there are reliability and validity issues with testing internationally. Examining students' performance on 3 tests every 3 years can be argued not to be measuring the success of the education system effectively. And a final criticism of the impacts of globalisation in educational policy has been that often initiatives from other nations are costly and short-lived, with many ideas being abandoned due to political changes. That concludes this topic video on globalisation and educational policy. Thanks for watching.